Welcome back to GameScoop, everybody. I am your host, Damon Hatfield. I'm joined now by Dan Stapleton,
Hello.
Justin Davis,
Scoop.
and Greg Miller.
Brat, brat.
And we're going to talk about The Elder Scrolls Online.
Are we now?
Which just this week it was announced that it would have a $15 a month subscription fee that's on top of its $60 price tag for the game.
They're partying like it's 2004, I gotta say.
Highly unusual today, isn't it? Like,
Yes.
most... What MMO out there besides World of Warcraft and EVE Online isn't free to play?
Final Fantasy is about the only one.
Yeah.
14?
Yeah.
A Realm Reborn.
Yes.
And
Which is about ready to launch again. That's going to be a subscription game?
Yeah, it's also a subscription.
And WildStar just announced it would have a fee as well. But they're doing something similar to EVE where you can buy it with in-game money if you accrue enough.
Well, so I don't know, maybe this isn't as unusual as I thought.
It's unusual.
It's very unusual. I would say, like, World of Warcraft, it's obvious that game is going to be free to play eventually. And so it's really just Final Fantasy and Elder Scrolls are the only two. Those are the three big ones. I guess I didn't know about WildStar.
I mean, the fact is that any game that costs this much to develop needs a huge audience to support it. And to support what Star Wars The Old Republic ran into was that they were unable to produce content fast enough for paying subscribers to consider it worth it. And if EA couldn't do it, I don't see how ZeniMax can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, go.
we
go.
both mean something. There were buddies of meaning things. But no, of course, what I'm going to talk about is the ultimate
I'm going to talk
MMO,
about
DC
right now.
Universe Online. And DC Universe Online did the same thing where it launched at $60, and then there was a $15
That was a
subscription.
$60 game.
It was, yeah. And if you remember, it sold out. Like, there was a big deal. It was hard to get. People really it hit, and people thought it was something new and wanted to play it, and they were really into it. And that install base was enough to keep them afloat long enough for, I forget, was it 6 months to a year? They went free to play as well. But what they said, at least, is it wasn't that they were like hemorrhaging money. It was just like, this is time and this is what we've always wanted to do. But to make that initial investment back, right, we buckled down and did that. And I think with a name like Elder Scrolls Online, like, that's the next MMO I'm excited for. That's the next one where I'm like, yes, I want to do that.
What you're talking about right there is exactly what happened to Star Wars. Yeah. Like they went out there, they did huge numbers right away, and then it tapered off because people got to the end of the content that was there, and the content in there, the story content in the Old Republic is really good. It's really good. But there's only so much of it, and once you burn through it, there's nothing else to do. And why am I still paying if they can't generate enough content for me to play for a month every month?
But like, their content pipeline was crazy, and that doesn't mean that ZeniMax Online's content pipeline has to look like that. Maybe they have a better way, a better plan for getting content out quickly. The Elder Scrolls, Star Wars. These are two separate problems. Like, Star Wars' problem was they couldn't get content out fast enough to satiate the users and keep them paying that fee every month. That's because it was so high quality. The voice acting was so good. Like, it was BioWare. It was a BioWare game through and through. Maybe ZeniMax Online won't have that problem. Maybe
their game will be crap, and it'll be easier to put out things.
I don't know. It's like BioWare thought that it could produce content like that.
I mean, that's what you can go back to an old GameScoop, and I said I don't see how that game is going to continue to have expansion packs and new content drops.
Elder Scrolls or
Star Wars?
Okay.
Because it's exactly what ended up happening. I'm like, they released this really, really, really high quality game, and it turned out it was really hard to release new content, quickly of that quality.
So all of us that have seen Elder Scrolls Online come away very, very positive.
Well,
right.
It's
People seem to
improving.
really like it.
It was the initial review was not very positive at all, actually. Okay. But it's getting every time people see it, the game's coming together. Okay. Like, it seems to.
But then the question that you posed to me when we were talking about this earlier this week, Dan, is: has Elder Scrolls Online just committed suicide already? Like, did it? Like, even before it's out, it's not supposed to be out until next year. Adding a subscription fee,
I think it's taking a huge risk. I mean, it could potentially pay off, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I don't think it's suicide. I think they're going to be okay. I think this is coming at it from Dan. He comes from PC land, where things are different and free to play is super successful and this, that, and the other. Whereas I think gamers are used to console gamers who they're appealing to. The reason I'm excited for this game, right, is the fact that I will be able to play it on my console. I'm excited and I don't mind buying the $60 game and paying the $15. Because again, console mindset is, I'm going to play it and I'm going to stop paying for it at some point. And then either it goes free to play or they put out a new expansion and I'm back in and I'm super stoked for it.
Right, but if you play it and then stop paying for it, then ZeniMax is screwed. Because if everybody stops paying for it, they're done.
Sure.
I mean, I think, so you guys know me. You guys know me well. We're friends,
so.
And the viewers at home know that I sometimes have very strong opinions. Can be very stubborn, don't like to be swayed. This one, for once, I'm right down the middle on it. Like, I really don't know what to think. On the one hand, Obviously, I've talked about how I'm not wild about free-to-play games. The model of $15 for all you can eat. You didn't read off the guy's quote, but he said...
Yeah, I was planning to do that, and I threw the paper away. I can still do it.
But I mean, he basically says it allows them to deliver the package.
The quote is, charging a monthly subscription fee means we will offer players the same game we set out to make and the one that fans set out to play.
Yeah.
But don't you remember what the BioWare doctors were saying in the lead up to...
They're gone!
No,
They're making beer now.
This is like the same stuff they were saying, which is that, like, oh, this subscription fee allows us to do all the stuff we want to do, and free to play is great for what it does, but subscription, it lets us do this higher quality experience that people really want, and they failed.
I mean, this is why I'm split down the middle. The idea of a $60 game with the $15 fee on top of that seems crazy in 2013. It seems like no game has successfully been able to pull it off, MMO, in years and years and years. They've all had to go free to play. And so part of me is like, yeah, they have committed suicide. Another part of me thinks Elder Scrolls is a huge deal. This game is shaping up really, really nicely. And I think if this game comes out and gets great reviews, it gets 9s, people are really loving it, that maybe they can pull it off. Like, that's why I'm like totally on the fence on this one.
Yeah, like if the stars all align perfectly, then yeah, like if it is an amazing game and there's nothing wrong with it and it has tons and tons of content, actually what I think will be the make or break factor for it is if the end game multiplayer, the PvP, if that is sustainably awesome, then people will stay with it. But
I agree.
If they get to the end and there is nothing else to do, or if the multiplayer is not very well balanced, and they do have very ambitious multiplayer plans, or PvP plans.
I don't know how developers can continue not building end games into their MMOs.
Right.
Like, again, I think it's very easy for me to sit here on a couch and be like, let me explain.
I don't know why these developers aren't thinking of this problem.
Explain to you what you're doing wrong with your MMO. But yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, you do see that mistake over and over again. People love a game, they get to the end, there's nothing left for them to do, so then they unsubscribe. Like, that happens.
That happened to the Old Republic. I mean, people got to the end of the story content that BioWare had poured its heart and soul into, trying to make that good, but not realizing how quickly people would burn through it.
But I mean, maybe that's just, so you paid $60 to get the game, and you get 1 free month, and maybe it takes you 3 months to get through it, or, however long.
That's very optimistic.
Well, but sure. I mean, the point is you're still going to get $75 or $90 from somebody. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but these games cost a huge amount of money to develop. Huge amount.
And console gamers, they complain about every dollar that they have to spend, right? And so let's say you pay $400 for your PS4, $60 for the game. Mm-hmm. Now you have to pay an extra $15 a month, and you have to pay for PlayStation Plus to play this game online. So
oh, is this one? Is this one of them that'll have to be that way?
Well, that's the deal if you want to play online.
Yeah, but DC Universe Online isn't in that thing. Like multiplayer, what they were talking about. I'm just throwing it out there for clarity's sake, even though this muddies the water even more, I guess. But
I'm actually not sure. I think some games that you pay for separately can be excluded from the PS Plus.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. And here's one thing that you have a very good point earlier that
see you guys later.
Good job, Craig.
We nailed them.
You had a very good point there that this is an MMO coming to an audience that is not really into MMOs or hasn't had access to them very much in the past, and there could be a lot of interest there for people that haven't already soured on the subscription model. However, the number of PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones that are out there at the time this launches will not be enormous.
Right, good point.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, I don't know. It's a tough one to predict. But like, I feel like if someone would be like, Justin, write an essay on why this was a great idea, I could do it. And if someone said, write an essay on why this was a terrible idea, I could do it. It's like, it's all of Tamriel. It's the whole world of Elder Scrolls. That's incredibly appealing, but it's not being done by Bethesda. It's being done by a different studio, ZeniMax Online. So it's like, for every point, there's like a counterpoint that it's like, this game for me is a toss-up.
Skyrim became a $100 game eventually.
Yeah.
But that was, if you bought all the extra content.
At the same time, it's coming down, but anyway. Well, depends on when you buy it.
If you bought it at launch and you bought all the extra content, over a couple of years it becomes a $100 game. Yes. But Elder Scrolls Online becomes a $100 game in 3 months.
Yeah.
And then they want you to spend even more.
Yeah, and that's after if you've already if you just bought a $500 console, $400 console in your case.
Would have been smarter if they made the game free to download, and then they just started. You just pay a $15 monthly subscription fee.
Yes.
Right? Why do they also need that $60 up front?
I mean, it could be because of Dan's point that maybe there's not a wealth of content. It's like maybe if someone's going to burn through it in 2 months, they can get $30 for the 2-month subscription, or they can get $75.
Yeah, and you've got that anticipation factor. You've got all the people that are going to run out there and throw their money at ZeniMax and say, "Give me this game," and they're used to doing that for for pretty much every game.
Right.
So it's not that big of a hurdle. I think like Guild Wars 2 has a great model where you have the initial $60 purchase or $50 purchase. I forget. I think it was 60.
It was 60. Now it's 50.
Right. So you buy in and then you pay no subscription fee. But, and this is another topic that people are kind of upset about for the Elder Scrolls Online. In addition to the $60 buy-in, the $15 a month, there's also an in-game shop where you can buy stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but that's no different than World of Warcraft.
That is true. However, World of Warcraft has a ton of content, like a decade worth of content.
A decade's worth, that's exactly right.
So
it'll be very interesting to see how this shapes up.
I mean, I think, can I make one final point?
You may.
I think what we haven't talked about yet is the actual game design of free-to-play, and it does change. Like, if you're making a premium download, you don't need to think about how am I going to extract money. You know, if it's $15 a month, you don't need to say, well, should travel be free or should that cost a token and those tokens cost 10 cents? Like, these are the things that have to happen when you change a game to be free-to-play that, you know, I wrote a big story that a lot of people read about. This is why free-to-play games sometimes don't feel good. They're not all created equal. I think Lord of the Rings Online, I name-dropped that game a lot. I really like its free-to-play model. Other MMOs, I don't like their free-to-play model. So, I don't know. That's why the subscription fee appeals to me, Justin Davis. Like, whether it was a good business move, I don't know. But for me, I'm happy to spend $15 a month, and then when I'm in the world of Tamriel, in Elder Scrolls Online, I don't need to be thinking about money after that.
But at the same time, like by adding that in-game shop, they kind of take that away from you, don't they?
I mean, it depends on the nature of the in-game shop. Like, if it's like WoW's, where it's like you can buy this dumb mount, like I'm happy to ignore that. You know, or again, like, you know, Lord of the Ring Online, like I buy the content packs and ignore everything else, and I'm fine with that. Like, it depends.
What about looking at the people who are paying the $60 for the game and then a 15-month as your test group, right? Because what you're talking about is a great point. The fact that there's not going to be that many Xbox Ones, PlayStation 4s out there. However, the people who will have bought those consoles will be the hardcore gamer who know what an Elder Scrolls game means, right? So they buy it regardless of what we think of it at launch because it's Elder Scrolls, they want to get in. They go through and then they get to point out what they don't want more of, this, that, and the other. And then they get to come out and the developers get to come out and be like, well, we fixed all that and free to play. Download the client, no problem, and then just pay us a subscription or whatever.
And then you get your loyal hardcore kind of pissed off that I had to pay $60 to get into this game. Now they're letting any.
But you give them a founder's cape or something, and they're thrilled.
There's already like running jokes. There's like people are starting pools. I'm like, well, okay, how long until Elder Scrolls goes free to play?
Right,
6 months, 8 months, 12 months.
Yeah, will it make a year?
Yeah,
that's the outside chance. Will it make a year?
It's supposed to be out next spring, right?
Give or take. With MMOs, who knows?
Yeah, that's true. For more on the Elder Scrolls Online, stay tuned to IGN Game Scoop.